My dad and Rebecca have been married since I, a teen male, and my sister, younger teen female, were young grammar schoolers. Quick background. My parents were not divorced when my mom died, but they were going through a divorce. When they first separated, it was because my mom had changed a lot and was undiagnosed with brain cancer at the time, which had caused a lot of behavioral changes. I still remember how big those changes were. The diagnosis came just before she died. While my parents were separated, Dad met Rebecca, and they got married 3 months after Mom died. They had pushed the wedding up, since they were no longer waiting for the divorce. Rebecca had always had a very negative perception of Mom because Dad told her about her behavior before they separated. She said our mom was a bad parent, and she would make sure we knew what a good mom looks like. She's called herself our mom from almost the beginning of their marriage. Years later, I found out she knew back when she married my dad that she couldn't have kids of her own. My sister and I have never liked Rebecca because of the stuff she says about our mom. Dad knows how we feel, and after he did some therapy, he would tell her to stop. But he also told us that we should understand that Rebecca loves us and feels like we deserve the best, and she might say the wrong thing because of that sometimes. With all that out of the way, I can explain the problem. I have a pretty big friend group. 6 of my friends' moms have made their own little mom group where they can get together and vent and hang out. Sometimes they use it to plan who'll host something or will volunteer to chaperone some things. The moms in the group all know my sister and I don't consider Rebecca our mom and that we dislike her. My sister's also part of the friend group, so they know her feelings too. Rebecca wanted to join the group many times and was always kept out. Then a month ago, Rebecca approached the moms when she saw them out for coffee together and asked why she was never welcomed in. They told her she wasn't a mom, so they weren't going to include her. She argued back that she was mine and my sister's mom. They said we say differently and that our opinions matter more. They also told her that they would never make things uncomfortable for the kids by including her, since it would mean she'd be around the friend group for certain group stuff we've done together. Rebecca vented over dinner to us about it, and I shrugged her off when she asked what I had to say. The truth is, I don't feel the tiniest bit bad that she's been excluded. But she was angry, and Dad told me I should be kinder. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your friends' mothers can choose who's in their group and who they keep out of it. Since you and your sister, even after a decade of her being married to your father, continue to dislike your stepmom, that's an important consideration for them. No one can force you to like someone who badmouth your biological mother. That's between you and her. Also, who would have thought that bad-mouthing your stepkid's mom is not going to endear you to them? Crazy. The fact that she was just talking smack about these young children's recently dead mom in front of them is deplorable. And your father's an idiot for allowing it to happen for as long as he did. When it comes down to it, Rebecca's being excluded as a result of her own behavior, not yours. I'm wondering when he and Rebecca actually started dating. I'm betting she was the affair, while OP's poor mom was struggling with brain cancer. If someone I knew acted like those two while your mother was fighting for her life after losing that battle, they'd never darken my doorway again. I hope you're planning on moving out and going at least low contact with your father and his bed warmer as soon as you possibly can. They deserve each other. They don't deserve a relationship with you or your sister. My ex-husband, Kyle, and I divorced 4 years ago. We have 3 kids together, tween, pre-tween, and kindergartner. I was a stay-at-home mom and primary caregiver for the kids, so I petitioned for and was granted primary custody while Kyle got visitation. He's been trying to get 50-50 custody split, but due to living over an hour away, he's only been granted extra time with the kids. We co-parent well, or at least we used to. Things started to go south after I remarried a little over a year ago. My current husband, Jeff, and I were old friends from college, and we reconnected through mutual friends after my divorce. Jeff has never been married, and has no kids of his own, but he's a fantastic stepdad to my kids. He loves them and dotes on them as if they were his own. Kyle and Jeff didn't know each other before I got remarried, but as soon as Kyle discovered that Jeff and I were old friends, he started acting weird and suspicious. I heard from mutual friends that he was asking them if anyone knew if Jeff and I were connected with each other before the divorce. None of that is true, and after I heard about it, I confronted Kyle and told him to stay out of my personal life because that's not his business. Recently, after one of the kids' visits with Kyle, he said he needed to talk with me about some things. Apparently, Kyle was upset that Jeff had been buying expensive items for the kids. Jeff makes good money and enjoys spoiling the kids. The older two had brought the new Nintendo systems Jeff got them over to Kyle's house, and it started an argument because Kyle made them put them away and not play on them. Kyle said that he's uncomfortable with Jeff spending large amounts of money on the kids like that because he feels like Jeff is trying to buy their affection and puts too much emphasis on consumer items. I told him that gift giving is Jeff's love language, and it's how he prefers to show he cares about someone. I told him that I wouldn't tell Jeff not to spend money on the kids because it's his money and he can spend it however he likes. Also, the kids love it, and they don't argue with each other about having to take turns on stuff like that. I told him I would never tell him how to spend his money, and he's free to buy things for the kids too. I told him he's coming off as jealous, and it's not a good look, but I will at least try to make sure the kids don't bring things like that to his house if it makes him feel better. I told him that he needs to work on his insecurities about Jeff, because he will be in the kids' lives from now on. I told him Jeff wasn't trying to replace him, and that buying a few things for the kids wasn't a big deal. He told me to stop being a condescending witch for 5 minutes so that we can actually have a constructive conversation about his concerns. I told him if he's going to speak to me like that, he needs to leave my property right now. I really wanted to side with you, but you're an awful person. Your condescension for your ex is practically dripping. Your ex isn't wrong. Your husband is buying the kids' affection at this point, and you're pleased about it too. You want to replace your ex with your current husband, and he might take you to court for parental alienation, which is what it feels like reading this post. You're being awful to Kyle. He doesn't deserve it. He's their father, not your current husband. You are the idiot. Exactly. It's not about the money or the gifts. It's about respecting boundaries. Kyle is the children's biological father, and he has every right to voice concerns about his children, especially if he feels someone is using material items to build a relationship with them. Instead of addressing his concerns with understanding and trying to find a compromise, you immediately went on the defensive and belittled him. You should work on effective co-parenting rather than escalating the situation. What happens when husband number 2 gets bored of you and you can't provide all the things your children are now taking for granted anymore? Seems like you enjoy the new sweet life just a bit too much. My female 29, husband 32, and I are currently doing the nursery for our first, and I saw the cutest ever set of cast iron bunny bookends. I thought they would look so lovely in our nursery, and they're up on a shelf away from baby hands. Recently, my friend, female 28, was over with her son, pre-tween, and she asked to see the progress in the nursery. She was specifically looking at the little book display we have and saw the bunny bookends. Obviously, being cast iron, they were very heavy, but somehow in reaching for them, she knocked one off the shelf. Unfortunately, her son was underfoot, and the bunny broke 2 of his toes as it landed. Her son was obviously in a lot of pain, and my friend very quickly bundled him up and took him to the hospital. But she's since texted me saying that I'm responsible for any and all medical costs, as I chose to have dangerous items in the house and didn't properly childproof. I'm obviously quite sorry that this happened, but I told her that she's the one who knocked the bunny off the shelf, and I couldn't have childproofed against an adult dropping something. I said that I felt terrible about all of this, but this was not my fault at the end of the day. My husband agrees with me. But my friend's husband, 29, has texted me saying that I'm a very unkind word for hurting their son and choosing not to take responsibility. He also threatened to call the police, but I told him I was nowhere near the bunnies or their son, so I did nothing wrong. He said my inability to child-proof my home is reckless endangerment, and they can't afford the medical bills. I'm so topsy-turvy right now, and I feel like the idiot for allowing my friend's son to be hurt like this. But I don't know if I'm even the right person to blame. Was I the idiot for not child-proofing my nursery, and by extension, hurting a child? As an aside, the bookends have been returned. I don't want anything else to go wrong. Not the idiot. Dude, why was she touching crap in the first place? She literally dropped it on her child and is blaming you. That's beyond bonkers. Do not feel bad at all. It's not on you to child-proof for someone else. I'd never expect that. And I'm always on my kids if we visit somewhere. Congrats on your first. You'll quickly learn you can never be 100% child-proof. Accidents happen. And even if you try to child-proof everything, they have a habit of finding weird crap to get into anyway. Child-proofing is making sure that children can't injure themselves in a space. Putting heavy items out of reach counts as child-proofing. Child-proofing doesn't include magically preventing clumsy mothers from dropping cast iron on their child's foot. I don't know how big the medical bills are, as we have free health care for kids here. This was an accident, and even if they were nice about it, I'd help out just a little because it happened in my home, but they're not being very nice. Why do you have cast iron bookends that can break a kid's toes in your nursery? Because it's all about the aesthetic. You are the idiot. Just as in this example, too much can go wrong. Those bookends are a terrible idea in a nursery. Putting something heavy on a shelf in a kid's room is an accident waiting to happen. Your baby won't stay a baby and will eventually pull the heavy things down. Assuming you're in the U.S., from the concern about medical bills, you are indeed legally liable for accidents occurring in your home. So your friend is within their rights to tell you you're paying the bill for this. I just moved to the United States from Canada for work. My dad was from the States, so I have dual citizenship. However, besides vacation and family visits, I've always lived in Canada. I'm renting a house in a nice neighborhood. My dogs and I like it here, except for my neighbor. He's odd. I guess he was friends with the previous tenant, and he keeps taking my mail. I've caught him on my security camera. He'll come and grab all the mail and then come back later and put my mail back. I went over to ask him about it, and he said that the previous tenant had asked him to please grab his mail for him. I said that was nice of him and all, but I would appreciate it if he could please leave my mail alone. I wasn't rude or anything, I don't think. He said that he was friends with the guy and that he had made a promise. I had a solution. I said that I would bring in all my mail from the mailbox and then put his friend's mail in his after I sorted it. For some reason, that wasn't acceptable. I was even going to offer to let him look through the mail on my step, take his friend's stuff, and then leave my mail in my box without taking it with him, until he said he didn't want a stranger putting stuff in his mailbox. The lack of self-awareness was sickening. I told him to stay off my property, or I would be upset. Then I left. He did it again. I went to the post office to see if I could get his friend's mail forwarded to his address, or if the change of address form was not processed. I just didn't want this guy taking my mail. And that's when I learned that stealing mail is a serious crime. The USPS actually has its own cops, and that stealing mail is a serious crime. My neighbor came over yesterday to apologize, promising that he wouldn't take my mail again, and asked me to talk to his lawyer and explain that he never kept any of my mail. I said that I would. I was talking to my dad about it all, and he said that I was kind of mean to get this guy in trouble for doing his friend a favor. I said that I thought the guy was rude, and I didn't know if he was giving me back everything he took. What if he took my credit cards or official records? or medical stuff or something. My mom thinks I should have been nicer, but she's Canadian. So, am I the idiot for escalating a dispute with a neighbor? Not the idiot. Mail forwarding exists. This man was trespassing on your land and stealing from you. He had no right to take your mail, whether or not he later returned some of it. And you have no idea if he kept any of it. You're hoping he didn't, but you don't know that. All you know is that he took it. I also like how your neighbor asked you to talk to his lawyer and explained he never kept your mail. In actuality, how do you know that? If he kept something and never gave it to you, how would you know? That's why we don't allow people to come and grab another person's mail and take it into their homes. It actually sounds like you were nice and continue to try to be nice about it. The neighbor didn't want to work with you on this and is now paying the price. Yeah, how do you know he didn't steal any of your mail? Why lie to his lawyer and say he didn't take anything of yours when you don't know? The dude was 100% in the wrong. It's your place now, not his friends. Your solution of giving the mail back to him from his buddy was sound, reasonable, and neighborly. To continue to go through your box was criminal. He's not likely to get into too much trouble for the one offense, though. So don't worry about it too much. He'll have to pay through the nose and lawyer fees and probably a fine, and that's a result of his own stubbornness. Also, my Canadian mom thinks I should have been nicer made me laugh out loud. LOL. I, male 25, was with my fiance, female 23, and one of our friends, male 24, at a bar late at night. We had the munchies, and no other places in town were open. My fiance ordered some food and a drink. The friend and I didn't order anything. My fiance left to use the restroom. While she was gone, her food and drink came out. Her drink was a beer, which was canned. The bartender/server had opened the drink and set it down on a counter about 10 feet away from us, leaving it there for a few minutes, and then picked it up and walked over to us, setting it down in front of my fiance's seat. She then turned to walk away. My friends and I exchanged glances, thinking, why would she leave the pre-opened drink there and then with us? I've worked as a bartender, and I would never leave a girl's drink open while she was away. I would have just left the can unopened. It had also been sitting between a bunch of guys for a few minutes while she was off chatting with some dude at another side of the bar. The only reason she remembered the drink in the first place was because one of the guys was asking who this drink was for. When she put it on the table in front of us, I asked the server if it was customary to open drinks and just leave them between customers. She got extremely upset and began rolling her eyes while asking what we were accusing her of. I told her I was just curious, as I'm aware of the don't leave your drink unattended rule, and I would never do that as a bartender. I then asked her to replace the drink, and the server became furious. My fiance had a previous incident regarding drink tampering, and I had bells ringing in my mind. It eventually turned into a full-blown argument. My fiance came back from the bathroom to find us arguing while being extremely confused. The bartender was super rude to her as well, which set me off further. We then got kicked out of the bar for causing a commotion. Am I the idiot for demanding another drink? Not the idiot. Your concerns were valid, and that server needed to be told that. Drinks should not be passed around at a bar and left around for a chance to be fiddled with. She's a bartender and should know that. Good on you for speaking up. This bartender sounds clueless, and you should make a formal complaint to the management, not to get her in trouble, but hopefully it would result in a conversation about their policies around this. And if you don't feel like the manager you speak with gives you a good response or sounds like this matters or they care, post your story on their Yelp and Google review page. Maybe then they'll wake up. I disagree. That bartender should definitely get in trouble for that crap. It puts a lot of people in danger. This is not, sorry, I gave you the wrong order. This is a health hazard. I've had a beer spiked by a bartender. To open a beer, put it between a bunch of random other people, and bring it to you later is very suspicious.